This is the first in a 4-part series of building the Green Bean, which is the Mad Bean version of the Tube Screamer Overdrive. And
yeah, here's the finished effect right here. It's pretty much got the controls from the TS-808, like the tone, volume, and drive, and then it has a couple extra switches here, a symmetry switch and a fat switch. So the symmetry switch is a mod that changes the clipping diodes a little bit, so they clip either symmetrically or asymmetrically, and then the fat switch kind of sets the bass response on the distortion section.
Stay tuned for episode 4 to see the demo of those switches in action.
Okay, so we're going to build this this Green Bean right here. This is from Mad Bean Pedals. It's a clone of the Ibanez Tube Screamer. And just we got to get an idea of what the cost is, right? So do you want to build your own pedal, or do you want to buy a pre-built pedal, right? So you could buy it on Reverb, and you might get a used one for like, I don't know, $50 to $100, and you could buy a new one for like maybe $100, or maybe a little more. I don't know what they cost really, but I think they're around $100, 120 maybe.
I'll
right?
look it up.
And then there's lots of different versions, right? But anyway, so what would it cost to build it yourself? So the circuit board here was $7 at Mad Bean. The box, I think this was like $4 or $5 at Tida. The switch is about $5, right? So that's like 10 plus 7 is 17. And then, these other parts cost a little bit. Like all the small parts here are pretty cheap, but you usually have to buy them in bulk, so you could spend, $10 or $15 on parts here, and then you'd have a bunch of parts left over. Or if you just bought the individual parts in the numbers that you need, maybe it'd be cheaper too. And then these nice aluminum knobs here are like $2 a piece. These are probably one of the more expensive parts in the whole thing, but they look so cool, right? I love these knobs, right? These are kind of awesome, right? So we're going to use these on the build. And then the pots here are like, I think these are like $1 each or something, or 79 cents, or I forget what they're at, what these cost at Tida. But they're like $1.25 at the most, And then the little switches here are probably like $1 or something, right? So I think overall, the parts are probably like $25 to $30 for all the parts to build the pedal yourself, and then you got to do the work.
So you also get the satisfaction of having built your own tube screamer.
Yeah, and you can modify it. And actually, this one has a couple switches that are mods that aren't in the original, right? So it's got this symmetry switch and this fat switch, right? So you kind of get a customized tube screamer. A lot of people make custom tube screamers too, like a lot of companies. So they have their own mods, But yeah, and then you could modify this one, So I think it'll get built up and the pots will go in here, right?
Yeah, I think even a used tube screamer, Ibanez tube screamer, costs about $80.
$80 for a used one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
$70 to $80. So
70, $80. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Maybe you might find one a little cheaper, but that's probably the average, right? So $70, $80. You could build this one yourself for maybe $25 to $30. I think I did the math on this, and it's about $25. The circuit board adds a little bit of cost. If you make your own circuit board, it's a little cheaper. But getting the circuit board is a big time saver. So for just a couple bucks more, you're just going to save a lot of time and energy. Like this circuit board's super cool because the switches and the pots all solder to the board, and that cuts out a lot of the wiring that you have to do, and that prevents mistakes and it saves you time. So I would highly recommend getting a circuit board, right?
Also comes with great instructions.
Yeah, the instructions from Mad Bean are pretty good, though I should have read them more closely, But anyway, we'll talk more about that later. Okay, so this is the Mad Bean website. This is a pretty angry looking bean, and this is the shop down here. I'm going to go to his shop there, and he's got a bunch of circuit board projects you can buy. Like you can order them over here, and what I got was some down here under distortion, overdrive, and boost. And so I bought this Mad Bean pedal here, and the Mud Bunny was the Big Muff, right? So this is a Tube Screamer clone, and that's a Big Muff clone. I'm gonna go take a look at the the Green Bean right here. And this is the circuit board, right, that we were just looking at. And if you scroll down, this is the Mad Bean version. And then the red one right here, the one with these red parts or red lines, is the stock version. So if you want to build the circuit from like the stock original Tube Screamer, you can follow this parts list. But if you want to build the Mad Bean version, you can follow these parts. And they're pretty much the same. There's just a couple parts have been changed.
Mm-hmm. And
right?
I won't have switches on
the
stock version.
Yeah, you won't have to have the switch, right? Yeah, I'm gonna build. I built this. I'm gonna build this one right here. This is my plan, is to build this guy, right? This is kind of weird. The tone pot is listed as a 20 kW. The letter here at the end, the 500 is a value, and then K is like 1,000, right? So it's like 500,000 K ohms, right? The A stands for audio taper, right? Mm-hmm. And the W is like a weird taper. It's hard to get. It stands
for weird?
No, it should stand for weird. It's actually like an S taper. So like the audio one, I don't know how to describe them. The audio one is kind of exponential, right? And then there's an anti-audio one, right? The B, if it says B, it's linear. If it says C, it's audio, right? It's like reverse audio. And if it's A, it's like audio taper. This W is like an S curve, so it has like more. It kind of has more control for this circuit in the center of the range, right?
Right.
That's why they use this one. It's hard to get these weird tapers. The A, B ones are pretty easy to get. They're common. The C ones you see a lot. You can get some values in there, but the W ones you don't see a lot. And then the wiring diagram, if you scroll down, there's the schematic there, right? Nice. And then here's the layout. So you can print this page, cut it out, and then fold this over the box and drill the holes where the center of these pots and switches line up. So you can fold these over the box. And then down here, there's the wiring. So the wiring here is pretty good.
Well, yeah, this is simple.
Yeah, this actually doesn't show the LED here, but the LED would plug into this. So if you drilled a hole right here, the LED would be right above the circuit board.
Oh, right.
You kind of get that?
Yeah.
So the LED would be mounted to the circuit board too, and there'd be like more or less wiring, right? So this is a pretty good layout. It's pretty excellent. Yeah, so here's the schematic. Let's talk about the schematic for a minute. So this is the Tube Screamer. This section right here is the input buffer. It's got a transistor. This section with this op amp and these diodes down here. So actually I can't really show a selection there, but this area right here is the clipping and gain section. And then this section over here is the tone control. So there's a tone here and there's an op amp. So it's kind of got an active, it actually is kind of a passive and an active tone control. And then following that, there's a volume control that feeds into an output buffer, which is this guy. And then this little bit up here is just for the power supply. So it's like the power comes in and it kind of divides it into 9 volts and 4.5 volts, right? So actually power comes in here. And then this is the LED. So really the circuit, the audio just goes through this bottom section, right? And I guess the modifications are the fat switch is this thing right here, and it switches out this capacitor for a larger capacitor. I forget which one is the original value, but one of these is the original. I think it's this 47N, and then the 120N one is the modified version, right? And so the fat switch lets you switch between these two caps, and that controls like how much bass goes through this op amp, right?
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and the asymmetrical clipping switch right here switches between these two sets of diodes. So the bottom two are two diodes that are kind of equal but facing different directions. Mm-hmm. So there's 2 of them. So they're symmetrical, right? So if the signal was going through this diode, it would be the same as if the signal was going the other way through the other diode. when you switch to the upper set of diodes, you can see there's 2 in series here and 1 going the other way. So when the signal's going this direction, it's only going through 1 diode, and when it goes through the other direction, it goes through the 2 diodes here, and so that makes the one half of the waveform clip differently from the other half.
Okay, you said that enhances harmonics.
Yeah, I think it enhances the even order harmonics or something like that. It's a little over my head, the engineering there, but anyway, yeah, there we go. There's the schematic, right? Okay, so we're going to talk about where to order parts from. Okay, I ordered a bunch of parts from Tida Electronics. They're pretty cheap. They have a wide range of stuff. They got lots of parts, and they're pretty cheap. I kind of like that. They actually have a lot of parts that are good for pedal builders. They sell the boxes, right? So you can get the aluminum cases. You can get the foot switch. This is actually not exactly the foot switch that we want, but it's similar. They got knobs and all sorts of other stuff, transistors, and these guys have like almost everything you need. There's a couple things you can't get here. And for those things, I use one of the other places. One of the places is Small Bear. So Small Bear, they have they're more expensive, but they kind of have some specialty items that you can't get from other places, right? And the one thing for the Tube Screamer that I got here was the tone control. Let me go find potentiometers, and I got a 16 PC mount right angle.
Oh, that's the W taper.
Yeah, and we needed that's exactly right. We needed the W taper pot. So I'm going to try and see if I can find that here. Where did I get that thing? Yeah, so they have a whole list here. So if I get the 16 millimeter PC mount pot, and then I scroll down here, you can see they've got 20K W. It's hard to see at the bottom there, but it's like W20K reverse audio. So that's like what they use as the tone control, right? So this is like, it's like $135, which isn't really a lot of money. But if we looked up pots on Tida, if I do Tida has W taper too. Oh, but they don't have the right angle one. So you could still use this, but you'd have to solder some leads on here. But these are only 60 cents, so they're like half the price, right? So, it's kind of up to you. And these also have like the knurled shaft. They don't have the solid shaft, right? So, there's some differences. Another place we ordered parts from was Pedal Parts Plus. I think I don't know what you order here, Kirk, but I like if I go to this place, I usually order just the boxes or the switches.
I think I couldn't find the some of the transistors or capacitors on Tida, so I was going to get them on Pedal Parts Plus.
Oh, so they got both transistors and diodes and things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Looks like they have pots here too. They got 25K. I wonder if they have the W, because that W one is hard to find, right? Yeah, I got mine from. I had to do an order from Small Bear for that one. So another place I ordered parts from is this company FutureLec. The thing about this place is they're kind of cheapest. Like Tide is actually pretty cheap, right? Like you can get all the resistors and stuff you need there. They're just like 2 cents a pop. They're super cheap. The FutureLec is in the same zone. They're cheap like Tida. The bummer with these guys is sometimes the orders take a long time to come in because I think they come from Thailand, and it's just like the process is the ordering process is really slow.
Okay, but if you're in Thailand, maybe they're faster.
Yeah, maybe if you're in Thailand. I'm not in Thailand right now, though, but but they have like a lot of other stuff. But you can get like components. You can get like resistors and. Here's a bunch of 1/4 watt resistors, metal film. Let's see what they got here. 10 to 100 ohms. So it's like you get 10 for 20 cents. So they're like 2 cents a piece. It's pretty cheap, right? And they have I get capacitors here. Like they have a good range of capacitors, right? So you get through some Mylar capacitors, right? They're like 7 cents a pop, right? So that's a pretty good deal. For the knobs, I got them at Love My Switches, right? And this guy, I actually like this guy's store. It used to be called Bitches Love My Switches. He kind of changed his name though. But he actually has some good stuff. He's got some switches. He's got some boxes. You can get some jacks, right? I actually really like these tiny jacks. These are great if you're using the A-size box. He's got switches, right? Love my switches, right? He's got knobs galore. Like he's got the best selection of knobs. And the prices for this guy doesn't sell everything, but for the prices for the things that he does sell are pretty good, right? And I really like the knobs. Like, so if you go to the knob selection here, he's kind of got the greatest knob selection. Like he's got these cool, nifty aluminum knobs. Like these are pretty slick, right? I actually like this one too. This is for the Klon. Looks like the traditional Klon one. I like these. I got some of these. I thought these were pretty nifty, right? These look pretty good. Though Tida has some knobs like this, and they're really cheap. This one's like $1 each. These are like $1.40, right? So that's actually not too bad. So for the stuff that this guy has, they're pretty good, right? So anyway, so that's where we order parts from. Okay, so here we wanted to talk about the transistors that go into the green bean and the tube screamer. Looking at the picture of the PC board, you can see the outline of the transistor here. Like the transistor is a 3 lead component. It has 3 wires that come out of the bottom of it. Essentially, the case is usually a little plastic cylinder that has a flat side on it, and you can see like that's the shape of the outline here on the circuit board. So this is kind of cluing us in that we should orient the part this way, but you have to be careful because some transistors don't use the same pinout, like the pins are arranged differently. So you can see there's 2 of these transistors. There's one up here and there's one down here, and if we look at the parts list in the Mad Bean version, the transistors are Q1 and Q2, and they're just listed as SI for silicon. So pretty much like any silicon transistor, as long as it has the correct pinout or pin arrangement, right? Okay. The stock version of the Tube Screamer used a transistor, and you can see the part is listed here in red, and it says Q1 and Q2 are a 2SC1815 transistor. At the very bottom of the build guide, there is a section on Q1 and Q2. So it says, since these 2 transistors are used as buffers, the actual transistor is not critical, right? The only thing that matters here is they're reasonably no noise or low noise and reliable, right? So he's like, I picked the more common CBE pinout rather than the 2SC1815, right, is ECB. So in other words, like the transistors have 3 legs. One of them is the emitter, the base, and the collector. So E is emitter, B is base, and C is collector. And you can see like these are in a different order, right? The C is in the middle over here, right? So the transistor that he recommends is the 2N5088, right? And this has a pretty common pinout. It can be 2N5088 or 2N5089 or the BC550. I think the BC ones are European, so if you live in Europe, you could get one of these. They're probably easier to get, right? All the American parts start 2N. Let's take a look. So looking at I looked up the pinout for the 2SC1815. This was the original part used in the Tube Screamer, and you can see it's emitter, collector, and base, right? And we can see this is the flat side of the transistor. So, essentially like if we look at the part here, and as if we were looking at the top of the circuit board, this would be 1, 2, and 3. So emitter, collector, and base, right? And if we look at the 2N5088, it's actually emitter, base, and collector. And this is the pinout that the circuit board is using. So actually this has to be the emitter, the base, and the collector. So if you were to use one of these transistors, this collector would have to go into the hole at the bottom, and the base would have to go into the hole, this one right, number 3, would have to go in the hole in the middle, and the emitter would go in the top one. Right?
So you couldn't just reverse it.
Yes, you'd have to swap. Yeah, you'd have to say it again.
You have to twist the legs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you'd have to bend this leg over here and take this leg and put it over there. Okay, so anyway, so that just keep your eye on the thing, on the legs there in the emitter base collector, and if you could probably use other transistors too, but you should look up the pinout and make sure that it matches, right? But if we look at I had to kind of look at this diagram and make sure I had the right parts and then read the instructions at the bottom. But this has to be the collector. This is the base in the middle, and we can see this connects to R3, right? And so if we look at the schematic here, the base is this leg and it connects to R3 and R2, and then the emitter has the arrow and it connects to R4. So if we look back up here, you can see like the emitter at the top here connects to R4, right? Okay.
Yeah, sounds good. So the instructions are really good, but you have to read them.
Yeah, you definitely have to read the instructions or you can screw it up. Not that I would ever do that, right? But anyway, okay.